Okay. That's weird. It almost sounded echoey. I don't know why. Fart walking.
Okay.
Gotta love
I've
it.
got my notes.
Google fart walking, folks. Time for Watch Skip Plus.
Hey, you want to watch some TV or something?
Skip it. Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Nothing but foul language and toilet humor.
I'm disgusted and repulsed and I can't look away.
I need these things! I need these things! Tell me, do you want to go? We're stopping on the color line.
Oh, no way, Jose.
This just in, go to hell!
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Hello, friends and listeners. You got Watch Skip Plus. Got it on the second try. We are a movie review podcast with a lifestyle twist. That twist is after we review a new streaming or theatrical film, we have a bonus review for you, a lifestyle review. It can be on anything. If it's the first time you're joining our Spotify video or even audio or even our YouTube channel, please follow, like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification so you get when we have a new video that we're posting. Mike, how are you?
I'm tired, but I'm alive. I've had a fun Memorial weekend. We're recording on Memorial Day for those of you who are listening in the future.
Happy Memorial Day, everybody. And that's WilDaBeast, Mike, my co-host, and I'm Jose, also known as Cupcake. You can see it right there, folks. But what are we reviewing this week?
Well, this is a big week in the movie theaters. For the Memorial weekend, there was two big movies, Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. We made a decision to do and review Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning.
Which also stars an alien. Just kidding. Make that, well, we're not going to go down the Scientology road, but it is what it is. And if you look at Tom Cruise as an exemplar, I guess Scientology works. But before we start with this, how do you feel about Mission Impossible? This is, what is this, 8? Is this 8, 5?
Eight. This is the 8th
6,
film. The
7,
first film
8,
came
yeah.
out. Yep, the first film came out in 96. I was in
Yeah.
high school, and the first film literally was the blueprint for how I had my hair until it started falling out. So the old
Oh,
Tom
yeah, we
Cruise
talked
Mission
about that.
Impossible one.
The
We
high-
talked about it.
the high
movie
top
was
fade.
it was so huge for me. I mean, you've seen it, so we can all spoil it. The movie's 30 years old, but that scene when Emilio Estevez gets killed almost like broke my heart when I first saw that. I'm like, yeah, Emilio, and then, oh my God, you killed him in the first 10 minutes.
I know, but we should probably discuss quickly that Mission Impossible, it was a television show in the 70s. And people loved it. The main character was John Phelps. I forget who he was played by. Caption here, folks. And Bruce Geller created that series. And so there was going to be a big screen Mission Impossible. Brian De Palma directed it, folks. Brian fucking De Palma. Blowout, Dress to Kill, Body Double directed it. And I think, you know, he has a signature way of filming and telling story narrative. And the first Mission Impossible was written by, I believe it was David Koepp, who we've talked about on the show because he wrote Presence. But obviously David Koepp, he's one of the most prolific, most amazing Hollywood screenwriters. He's also dead cute. Go back to Presence and listen to us listen to me talk about how much I'm in love with David Koepp. But something that people really kind of complained about was how they did the John Phelps character dirty in that film. And so, you know, spoiler alert, John Phelps, the main character from the Mission Impossible series, was a character in the Tom Cruise movie. He was sort of the head of the IMF team. And then it ended up being that he was the perpetrator of all of the mishigas that was going on that set up the whole stuff. And so after that, we got a sequel by John Woo, which was, it's absolute insanity, folks. Like, if you know John Woo, Hard Boiled, Hard Target, The Killer, everybody wants to be the killer with two guns, right? Samuel L. Jackson, Jackie Brown. That film was just, it was a bizarre outlier because it was like John Woo meets To Catch a Thief, only with Ethan Hunt. And it's got style to burn, but interesting. And then Mission Impossible 3, which I affectionately call Alias the movie because J.J. Abrams did it, and there was a lot in Mission 3 that was very much like Alias, the television show with Jennifer Garner. I mean, right down to the MacGuffin and it being red colored or whatever. Like, folks, do a deep dive. It's pretty amazing. And then we got Ghost Protocol, directed by Brad Bird. Brad Bird had done animated films, and that movie was almost like a live action cartoon in some ways. It was fantastic. Yeah.
Well, and then those first 4 films, before we go into what happened, those first 4 films really allow those directors to just kind of do their thing, right? So those first films really just, each individual film has its own director's look, even down to the almost comic book framing of Brian De Palma's first film, where he does those little frame shots, which is really one of his keystones. So each film very much to the Doves in MI2. Each one has the director's
signature director's look.
Yeah, signature directors, signature looks, and all those. But then go on to 5. I think that's when everything starts to meld.
So there's a thread. Apparently, they really did like the fact that the way that Abrams had sort of made Mission Impossible this kind of like tense mass entertainment stuff, right? To say nothing of Tom Cruise, okay? But that sort of look and the way that things were structured sort of followed into 4, but it wasn't until 5, which is Rogue Nation, the follow-up Fallout, and then Dead Reckoning Part 1, and then this movie, that there was really a sort of a uniform mission look and a formula, believe it or not, folks, that they all followed. And it's been pretty incredible. So I guess with that, let's launch into Below the Line. So on Rogue Nation, Tom Cruise was joined by a gentleman named Christopher McQuarrie. Everybody loves Tom Cruise, right? I mean, he is a force. He's a personality. He loves film. He's a cheerleader. I read an article that said that even though the studios shut down during COVID while he was making Dead Reckoning Part 1, he actually was sort of laying the groundwork for inspiring people to continue. Like, apparently he was calling studios and saying, hey, we don't have any problems. We're still filming. And then he would go to his crew and be like, all the studios are filming. Why are you laying on your ass? And then of course there's the famous audio of him yelling at the 2 crew members who weren't following the COVID protocol and saying, we're making movies. We're creating jobs. This is for cinema. This is for the future. So my argument was that behind every amazing actor like Tom Cruise, there are people that basically built his career. And I'm going to argue that 2 people, Paula Wagner and Christopher McQuarrie, have essentially built Tom Cruise's career. Now, why am I going to say this? I'm going to say this because Cruise Wagner was his production studio up until Rogue Nation. And what ended up happening was that Paula Wagner had to step back. She had a lot of duties with United Artists, which was folded into MGM, now bought by Amazon Prime. Sorry, nerd brain. This is what happens when you read the trades. But Christopher McQuarrie stepped in, and essentially he and Tom Cruise formed a creative partnership from Rogue Nation. So McQuarrie, who is the singular screenwriter, just out the gate, he did a Sundance film with Bryan Singer. I forget what it was called, caption here, but he wrote the screenplay for The Usual Suspects, which, I mean, he got a BAFTA award, an Oscar award, an Independent Spirit Award. Literally, there are magazines and publications out there that say The Usual Suspects is one of the greatest movies of all time, and that screenplay. So right out the gate, Macquarie is knocking him dead. He would go on to make his directorial debut with a film called Way of the Gun with Ryan Philippe and Benicio del Toro. Absolutely amazing. I think this was around the time that maybe like Quentin Tarantino was also coming up, and so people looked at The Way of the Gun and they were like, oh, this is just Quentin Tarantino or what have you. But really, Macquarie has a singular voice. And so when he stepped on to Rogue Nation, he wrote that and directed that. And he ended up directing the rest of the films in MI5. But he formed that constant relationship with Tom Cruise. And he has either written or been in a producing capacity on Cruise films in addition to directing. So he wrote The Mummy for Cruise, Jack Reacher. We are talking about, hold on a second. Now I got to go to my list.
Didn't he start with Valkyrie? I think that was the first one, right?
Valkyrie, he wrote and produced that. He was on the creative team for Edge of Tomorrow, the Jack Reacher sequel, Top Gun Maverick, for which Macquarie was nominated again as Best Adapted Screenplay. And folks, it's adapted because it's from the screenplay of Top Gun. So remember, that's when they say best adapted screenplay, it doesn't have to be from a novel. It could be from an original source material. So Christopher McQuarrie, I mean, he is absolutely amazing. What's your feeling on him?
I'm a big fan of his writing style. Yeah, ever since the first film you talked about was called Public Access.
Yes, thank you.
So yeah,
don't need to add the caption
on. I've been a big fan. So I actually took a film class and we watched Public Access and we watched The Strain. What was the other one?
The Usual Suspects.
We watched both those back to back, and this was a 97. So they were both pretty new, just so what was going on with new filmmakers. So that tells you how old I
am. Me too, folks. Okay. So not bad for a guy who grew up in New Jersey. By the way, super fun facts about Christopher McQuarrie before we move on. He worked in a church in Australia, and then got fired, came back to the States, worked for a detective agency. He was involved in 6 investigations before he moved on to working in a movie theater in a violent neighborhood in New Jersey as a security guard. But he credits that stint as a security guard as really teaching him, because he essentially sat in the theater and watched, waiting for people to act up. But he credits that job with really teaching him how an audience responds to film. So I'm not surprised that he and Cruise get along like a house on fire, and that they have created all of this amazing entertainment for all of us. Macquarie's also had a fruitful relationship with one Bryan Singer. And so they have done films together, Valkyrie, Jack the Giant Slayer, which unfortunately was a bomb. We did talk about The Usual Suspects and Public Access as well. Macquarie did uncredited rewrites on like X-Men, although he asked to have his name removed from that. But he's also done uncredited rewrites on Batman and Robin. We're not going to hold that against him. World War Z, Rogue One, The Wolverine. But obviously, Bryan Singer's career took a, shall we say, detour. And it appears, Macquarie's kind of hitched his train to the Tom Cruise train. But, it's a partnership that works. I mean, all of those films that we've mentioned are just fantastic. That brings us to our co-writer, Eric Jenderson, who I just love the name, Eric Jenderson. He's also kind of hot. He's an older guy. I'll let you guys look up his picture, but essentially he's known for creating, writing, EPing Band of Brothers. That was a host of awards that he won for that film, basically. Jenderson and Macquarie have been working together on a bunch of things. But really, Band of Brothers is Jenderson's biggest thing. And just to tease for the future, apparently Macquarie and Jenderson have hinted at 2 projects involving Tom Cruise, one of which they said is a quote-unquote gnarlier version of Mission Impossible. What could that possibly mean, folks? And you say It's apparently a project that's been long gestating, that is something you've never seen Tom Cruise do. So that's one project. The other, which may actually be the same, I don't know, but they are apparently working on a musical for Tom Cruise as well. Let's not forget, El Cruz was in Rock of Ages, and many people were like, he cannot sing. And I was one of those people, folks. But let me tell you something. He worked with Rob Thomas, if you guys know who that is, as his vocal coach. I have since rewatched Rock of Ages, and he does a really good job, actually. His singing it's good, actually, for somebody who's never turned that on before. So everybody, please revisit Adam Shankman's Rock of Ages. Pretty fun. Our DP is a gentleman named Fraser Taggart. Fraser Taggart, he is the DP who also lends Dead Reckoning Part 1. He is known for Doctor Strange, Edge of Tomorrow, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So he's definitely got a great eye. Recently did The King's Man. That is the sort of prequel of The Kingsman. And then Chaos Walking, Doolittle, and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. So great cinematographer. Before we jump to the cast, I just want to mention Lauren Bath, the music composer for Rogue Nation and not Rogue Nation, for Fallout and Dead Reckoning Part 1. He was supposed to come back on this. Unfortunately, he had to leave the project, and our music is by Max Arouge and Alfie Godfrey. But I got to tell you, this is an amazing score. It's inflected with like African tones and African drum beats. It has a very international feeling. I adore the Fallout score by Lauren Bath, and Joel Kramer, I think maybe Kramer did Rogue Nation. I love those soundtracks too, but this one is fantastic. This was originally supposed to be called Dead Reckoning Part 2. However, after the failure of Dead Reckoning Part 1, listen folks, it made $571 million, but the problem is it needed to pass 700 million to even turn a profit. I think Paramount had to write off like 150 million. But
this one only has to be 500 million. So
yeah, the reported budget for this is anywhere between 300 million, like Dead Reckoning Part 1, and $400 million. Wow, just wow. Although, Cruise backs it up, just didn't back it up on the other film. Anyway, who do we got in the cast besides Tom? Do we even need to talk about Tom Cruise, quite honestly? Folks, if you don't know who Tom Cruise is, you should probably stop listening to watching our YouTube. Yeah.
We could start with Tom Cruise, man. We can go I look at Tom Cruise's career into 3 different sections. We have the 80s and 90s, which is the beginning when he really didn't miss a step. Like once he started with The Outsiders, he pretty much was hit after hit after hit throughout.
I mean, who can forget dancing in his underwear for Risky Business? A move, by the way, Ray Nicholson did in Borderline, which I took your suggestion and I watched that, and I am so in love with Ray Nicholson and that big head of his. But anyway, I digress. Risky Business, and that just was like everything for Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah, Risky Business. You had all the right moves. Well, you have Legend. Like it was back to back in the 80s. Then Top Gun, Color of Money. I mean, he was just hit after hit. Then the
Cocktail.
Cocktail. The 90s came
Cocktail.
and he was really trying, late 80s, early 90s, he was trying to get that Oscar. Days of Thunder, Born on 4th of July. He was starting to get into more serious drama work with The Firm and A Few Good Men. I really like how the 2000s found him kind of struggling. I feel like his career was kind of up and down. Where do you go when you're in your early 40s and you feel like the film industry is not really there? And he starts making cool risks and choices, starts working with a lot of cool people, like we talked about, not cool people, but Singer kind of brought him back into things. We also have his work with P.T. Anderson on Magnolia. And then
oh my God.
So good. And
so
Vanilla
good.
Sky. Jeez.
And Vanilla Sky. By the way, we were just talking about Magnolia and his character in that. I'm going to say something ribald, folks. Respect the cock. But like that character, now we have, what's his name? Who's that asshole? What is his name? he was Trump brought him back to the US. He's such a scoundrel.
Oh, that Tate.
Anthony Tate, yeah. Anthony
Yeah.
Tate or whatever. But like Cruise's character in Magnolia presaged all of these, you know, what was it called? The Notebook, how to get women to fall at your feet, and this and it grew into that toxic masculinity, right? And then the incel culture and like women are just here for us, like that kind of thing. Like that performance is absolutely amazing. So I guess before we move on to the rest of the cast, because we know about Tom Cruise, right?
You could spend a million years going over Tom Cruise. Yeah.
But what's your favorite non-typical Tom Cruise role, just in terms of drama and acting?
I have to go with Collateral. I think it's when he came out doing
Good
something
choice.
completely different. This kind of lone wolf, very much not much dialogue in that, and his character in that. He just took me by surprise in that, in a way that I hadn't seen. But I mean, he was just working with the who's who of AV directors, so it was kind of nice to see what
Michael
he did.
Mann.
I think that was with Michael Mann there.
Yeah.
But and then right after that, Steven Spielberg in War of the Worlds. So, I mean, he just
My God.
He's worked with some of the greatest, and Kubrick, and he's worked with some of the greatest.
Eyes Wide Shut, the controversial Eyes Wide Shut. So for me, I really loved him in Magnolia. Really.
Yeah,
But
it's so
you know,
good.
Vanilla Sky, Eyes Wide Shut, you can see him stretching. You can really see him stretching. And the audiences may not have been on his side with those particular films, but
Mhm.
I'll take Cruise in Born on the 4th of July and Vanilla Sky over Cruise in, say, Jack Reacher any day, quite honestly. Because you know, when he stretches and he's great. Who else we got in the
Really
cast?
does.
We got a
Let's
loaded
go ahead
cast.
and we'll go through this as quickly as possible. So continuing some of the actors who've been in the films for a while, we got Simon Pegg. Of course, we've talked about him before. He started as an actor with Edgar Wright in the space television show, led to Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. They call that the Cornetto trilogy. As well as the comedy film Paul and his work on the Star Trek films. We all know Simon Pegg. He's really great. And when he's joined this film series, I think was around 4, was it Ghost Protocol? I think it was 4th film.
Yep.
He really elevated it. He brought
He was in 3.
energy. 3.
He gave the anti-god monologue in 3. Yeah.
That's right. So I liked since we've had him, he's really added new oomph to the series, and he's just really awesome. I enjoy him and everything. Then we got Ving Rhames. It's good to see him back again.
So
we all
good.
know him from Pulp Fiction, MI2, Bringing Out the Dead. You know, we've got the Dawn of the Dead remake. The guy's just everywhere. A cool little tidbit I learned about him is that he actually got his nickname Ving from his roommate Stanley Tucci. Started calling him Ving Rhames back when they were in SUNY together. He also won a Golden Globe for his portrayal of Don King in HBO's movie Don King Only in America, and he does the infamous voice.
Only in America.
He goes the infamous voice for "We Have the Meats" from Arby's.
We got the meats for Arby's. Also lended his voice to I forget what the character was, Cobra Bubbles in Lilo and Stitch, the original animated film. So there you go. Ving kind of is everywhere. Love that guy.
And then continuing on people who show back up, who've been in the series, Henry Czerny. Started all the way back in Mission Impossible 1, was kind of a villainous character in that. He was in Clear and Present Danger, Pink Panther, recently Ready or Not, but he always comes up as a bad guy or a spy or some kind of, political figure. So he's a great character actor, and I know we've all seen him a million times. So it's good to see him back in the films.
He was also in ABC's Revenge, which is sort of like it's a low-key, soapy Count of Monte Cristo, which for the first 2 seasons was actually pretty good. I happen to think Henry Czerny is fucking hot. So hot.
He's a silver fox, yeah.
As an old, oh my God, he is delicious. But so the issue with Henry Czerny for me is not only does he play scoundrels and just absolute douchebags, but one of his early roles, he had 2 early roles, which, I don't know, he almost got him ejected from my spank bank because he was in an indie film called The Boys of St. Vincent, and he played a priest that molested like a ton of kids. Like it was awful. And then Patricia Rozema's Night is Falling. He was like this sort of like asshole, you know. But anyway, Henry Czerny, I love him so much. He's so sexy.
Good to have him back. Esai Morales back around, portraying the same character he played in the last one. I go back to remember him in the 80s with La Bamba. He played a villain in Free Jack. I remember him in the Army Now, wonderful ice cream suit. But he also was known for TV. He did a lot of cop procedurals with NYPD Blue. I think he was in that for 4 seasons.
Yeah. As
well as NCIS LA. And then recently he played Slade Wilson as Deathstroke in Titans. So, but he's been in a lot of stuff.
Right. God. And you say he still looks like $1 million, man.
Looks great.
Gorgeous.
He does. He really does look good. Continuing on, for people who have continued into the series for a little while, but Palm Klimenov, is that right? Klimenov?
Is it Klementov? Klementov? Palm Klementov.
Anyways, most people nowadays know her. She was also in the really good in the Old Boy remake and in Ingrid Goes West. That's kind of when I first saw her, as well as Uncut Gems and recently in Killer's Game. But most people know her with her sweet, endearing turn as Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy. I really do like her and as this kind of quiet killer in the last 2 Mission Impossible films as well, with her hair always wet and dripping in her face.
I want her to move on from this quiet sort of tornado of death, because she plays it a lot, and I'm a little over it. But I love her. I think she's great. I want to see her stretch, and she's so beautiful, so beautiful.
Yeah, she's really good. A couple more names, and then we'll get on to the review proper. We have Greg Tarzan Davis, who also he's kind of an up and comer. He's been snagged by Tom Cruise since Maverick to be in his last couple movies. But the first time I saw him was in that Call of the Wild with Harrison Ford. But it seems like since Cruise has found him in Top Gun Maverick, he's been in these last 2 MI films. And while I think he doesn't do much in this film, I think he's got a career coming forward.
He's very good looking. That name though, Tarzan. Wow, it really makes you sit up and notice. I know him from Grey's Anatomy. He was on he's on Grey's Anatomy for 1 season, and then he just took off. But
and then we'll end it with Hayley Atwell. She got her start in British TV. Her first theatrical film was actually Woody Allen's Casanova's Dream in 2007. Followed in 2008 with Brideshead Revisited and The Duchess. Then she got that pivotal role in Captain America as Peggy Carter, which she wrote into an MCU series and throughout the MCU still today. She also dipped her toes in Disney. She was played Cinderella's mother in Cinderella, as well as Christopher Robin's wife in Christopher Robin. She's just wonderful. I love when she shows up, and Peggy Carter is a little character out of the MCU that she really made her own. I mean, she made Peggy Carter into something that nobody else could have, and I don't believe that that it would have been turned into a television show without Hayley Atwell's oomph and gravitas. So she really is a great actress, and I like her a lot in this, even though again she's kind of doesn't have much to do, but I think we'll get more into that now. So should we go ahead and get into the film proper?
Well, actually, 2 more people I want to mention.
You want to mention 2 more people? Okay, go for it.
Speaking of an actor I'm completely in love with, Shea Wiggum, who I adore. Yep. I just think he's one of the most beautiful people in the world. My husband's like, no. He also has a big head. And then I wanted to also mention that very briefly, Katie O'Brien shows up in this. I'm a huge Katie O'Brien fan. Tom Cruise, if you're listening, if there's going to be another Mission Impossible, Katie O'Brien needs to be in it because her muscles are bigger than yours. Okay.
Yeah, it was good seeing Katie O'Brien again. You are right. Because what was the big one? She played the big lesbian.
Love Lies Bleeding. So good. So good. And then, she was the best thing. One of the best things about Quantum Mania. Anyway. All right. So here we go. I am dying to hear your spoiler-free thoughts on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, aka Dead Reckoning Part 2. What'd you think?
I felt like this film fell into the Star Wars hole and be really tried too much, too hard to be this final capstone. And like the Rise of Skywalker, kind of undone some of the stuff I really liked in the last film because of a fear of maybe flopping, that they tried so hard to connect every previous film, reconning the third and fourth film to kind of fit their narrative in ways that just didn't work for me. It's too freaking long at almost 3 hours. To me, this is one of my least favorite, unfortunately, in this series. I was super bummed.
Wow.
I wanted to like this way more than I did, but we only get 2 set pieces that really don't do anything new. They just kind of feel like repeats, but in different ways. I didn't really like the subway scene at all, and that went on and fucking on and on, and that was not fun to me. I did not enjoy that subway scene. It was so unrealistic. I had to turn my brain off so much that I was just like, you're dead. You're dead. No
Ugh.
human being in the history of the world would be
I
able
gotta
to
tell you.
live through that. No human. No, I don't care who you are. That scene really just pulled me out, and that took forever. And I know some people were just like at the edge of their seat. For me, that didn't work. And then the big final plane scene, we've seen better. It just, man, this was a huge disappointment for me. Just
Wow.
absolutely. And the first 45 minutes is just this throwing at you of past previous scenes and monologues and dialogues that don't make sense. Just worst editing in the first 45 minutes, trying to cram so much berries into your brain of the last 7 films. And then we start to pick up. I do like how the film ends, but again, I just feel like this is way too much. They're trying too hard to like recapture what they feel like they lost. But the last film wasn't a bomb because people didn't want to see it. It was just released at the beginning of that end term of the pandemic. And I don't think people were just quite ready to go to the movies yet like they are now. So retconning and turning this into some big, like, remember me, remember this, remember how great the Mission Impossible series has always, at least until the 5th or 6th film, was a showcase for actors or directors to show what they can do. That's really what it has been. And I loved that, those first 4 films. And then once we started getting this tight narrative, it felt great. But then, boom, we go from the best in the series to one of the worst because we're trying so hard to please audiences instead of making a film that actually fits into the world that they've created for 30 years. So for me, huge disappointment. I'm probably going to say it. I mean, wait till it hits Paramount Plus at this point. I didn't find them anything really exciting or new or adventurous besides the size of Tom Cruise's nose. It just keeps getting bigger, size like his ego. Otherwise,
Okay, wait, hold on.
fucking
Okay, so I have a question for you. I'm happy we found each other as co-hosts, because I have to tell you that as the submarine thing was going on, I was kind of like, I'm not thrilled. Like, he's gonna make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that I wasn't thrilled by the rest of the film. It's just that sequence in particular, I was like, okay, now they're sort of overplaying their hand, I guess. But even if you take away, and now that you're saying it, I'm thinking back on the film and how they're trying to connect everything. Yeah, that probably is it's a little overreaching, especially when they called it The Final Reckoning. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be another fucking Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. Okay. So it's not over, folks. It's not fucking over. But, even putting all of that aside, right? As a follow-up to what started in part 1 and now, did the story work for you? Like, just in terms of this AI and AI, what because the other films were more about espionage and, foreign geopolitical pressures and the little people behind the scenes and what they're doing. We live in the shadows and, whatever. Was there anything that worked for you, or did you really just see this desperate grab to make it that that connected
Well,
Capstone.
we didn't really bring up any of the casts from the like kind of the what's going on behind scenes with the president. The president played by Angela Bassett. Again, they have small roles, but I like what was going on with Nick Offerman and his role and Angela Bassett and seeing what was happening in the war room. But there just isn't enough of that. So I did really think that stuff worked. And in the end, what Offerman has to do to you know, we'll go more of that the spoilers, but there's some really cool scenes that happen in that war room stuff, but there's just not enough of it. There's so much ham-fisted member berries and over-the-top dramatics throughout the film that I just kept getting tossed out. But
You're saying member berries, like remember berries?
Yes, that's what they call them. I think first time I heard that was with Kevin, actually. When you get filled with the member berries, I think they were talking about the Ghostbusters movies, which
Got
do
it.
that. They try to remember, you get those member berries that make you feel so warm inside. And that's what this tries to do so much, just bringing back all of these, you know, nostalgic memories that people might have from the first, second, third, and fourth film or whatever. They did a lot of retconning of the third and fourth film and talked a lot about that. Again, kind of like what we did in the Captain America, retconning other previous films that didn't really work in the MCU. So they were trying to take, which I like the third film, and a lot of people don't love it as much as I do. I think it's got
MI3?
stronger. Yeah, I think it's got one of the stronger villains.
It's one of my favorites.
People say it's one of the weakest, but I'm opposite. I feel like it's one of the stronger films before it became what it did with 4 and 5. I actually prefer what we got, where it was a different story of the week kind of thing, and with each film up to 4 or 5-ish. And then from Rogue Nation, we got the formula by now is just so, you know, we get 2 or 3 big set pieces. You know, you have to throw Tom. It felt like Tom Cruise running in this was just there to say, hey, Tom Cruise can still run really fast. Here he is. Didn't really like he wasn't
chop
really
the air, chop the air.
It wasn't like in the third film where he's running in that freaking whatever, that jet fighter comes and boom, blows up that car and he gets thrown against the side. Like, that was epic. There was so many epic things throughout 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This feels like it's just trying to recycle everything. Again, like the last big member berry, which is that damn Star Trek movie, the last movie, or Star Wars movie, the last Star Wars movie, just absolutely awful. And it felt the same, trying so hard to bring the old fans back, trying so hard to touch you in a way that you haven't been touched since 20 years ago. Sorry, your spouse doesn't touch you. Movies aren't going to touch you that way. It doesn't matter. New movies, the old movies are always there. You don't need to rely on a new film to touch you the same way as a previous film. So just enjoy the films for what they are. We should be making films not for nostalgia, but for telling stories and pushing the boundaries. This didn't feel like they were pushing the boundaries of anything. Just felt like a whole bunch of, oh, look, he's hanging off a plane again. Oh, he's holding his breath. Oh, cool. He's took all of his clothes off. Oh, man, he's in freezing water. Oh, man, I'm stressed. But I wasn't really stressed because he's not going to die. No matter how much peril we put Tom Cruise's Ethan character in. We know he's never going to die. And if he does, he gets brought back to life, which we've seen him get brought back to life probably in every single film. So I don't know. That's how I feel overall. I'm borderline. I'm probably on the skip. Wait till it comes to, unless you're a huge fan and you really want to see him hanging from a plane in a big screen. Cool. But there's nothing really new here. And for how long it drags out, damn near 3 hours, man, my brother-in-law I took with me, he was dozing in and out, in and out. I had to keep elbowing him, like, wake up, homie, wake up. It's too long and too over dramatic and lost touch with what I feel like the series was all about. It was about not reinventing the wheel, but keeping us entertained, keeping us on the edge of the seat. This was just recycling a whole bunch of nostalgic member berries over and over again. Now your turn.
So yeah, well, listen, I kind of see what you're saying, but I don't know. When this became heavily serialized, so if our listeners have not, if our viewers and listeners have not really seen all of the Mission Impossible films, when it became serialized and events carried over, that's when I really fell in love with it. Because when characters would die that had carried us through several films, that felt like stakes. That felt like oh boy, you know? And, you know, like in part one, when Isai Morales' character says, somebody you love will die tonight or whatever, I was like, oh my God, they're going to kill somebody else again, right? But I mean, some of this is definitely flawed. Let me just start with the bad stuff because, you know, I love to pick things apart.
Like I just did.
Yeah. Let me start with the bad stuff. Too fucking long. It's just there was absolutely no fucking reason for this to be that long, quite honestly, because what works works. What doesn't work doesn't work. And I don't know about you, I took the time to rewatch Dead Reckoning Part 1 because I wanted to be ready. Well, lo and behold, with so many flashbacks and previous scenes, I didn't need to fucking watch it. And so I just kind of wish that it would have just continued like Kill Bill 2, you know, without any sort of like whatever, just right back into it. Okay. Yeah. Maybe give us a little bit of, you know, I ravaged and I raved and here I am, I'm going to finally kill Bill. That's fine. But like, it just so much wasted time. Like, oh, here's a flashback. That's what this character did. Like, we're vested. If we're coming, we're vested. Okay. And you know, honestly, I think that's why the studio got cold feet and changed it from Dead Reckoning Part 2 to The Final Reckoning, because I think they wanted people to go and see it and be able to catch up and not have watched the first one. But yeah, I do love the first trilogy, but the more that I revisit the series, I've probably seen all of the films over and over like a million times. Okay. I love them. They're an entertainment treat. But something I had been thinking about going into this film, and this film only sort of reinforced that, was that when Macquarie stepped in for 5, 6, and then Dead Reckoning Part 1, what he was very cannily doing in a very canny way was that he was using Brian De Palma's Mission Impossible as his framework for this is what worked, right? Yes, we got the director showcase in 2, we got the director showcase in 3. But what really worked was the formula, the espionage, the suspense elements of the first Mission Impossible. And if you watch 5, 6, and Part 1 over and over again, like I have, what you'll start to see is that they are visually and thematically referencing Mission Impossible 1 over and over and over again. But they're doing it in a way that's fun and exciting, almost to the point where, at least from 5 through Fallout, I forgot that they were actually following that formula, right? And so there is a formula. There is something that sets everything in action. There is a portion where his team or crews gets marginalized, and then they actually have to do or work with the enemy, or even an enemy of the US, to get something to then move to the final chapter and sort of like move along whatever their full mission is. But they've done it in a way, repeating this formula, that is so wildly entertaining that I don't know. I loved it. As much as I had problems with Dead Reckoning Part 1 being so all over the map, which, by the way, I'm going to say this, Dead Reckoning Part 1 is an undercover origin story for how they find and recruit people for Mission Impossible. It was only for the IMF. It was only whispered about in the other films, but Dead Reckoning shows us that, right? And again, there are things in every single film that reframe the De Palma Mission Impossible, and they do it here in spades, right down to the Dutch tilts, the extreme close-ups, almost anime-like close-ups, the formula, the tone, and even the photography. I will tell you, I did roll my eyes a little bit because this one, out of all of them, the cinematography in the beginning is too on the nose. We live in the shadows. So now everything is in the fucking shadows, right?
Everything.
We've got tight eye lines. We've got shadows here, shadows there. Isai Morales at one point looks like he's in a, To Catch a Predator video. Like his face is all dark and he's delivering lines, right? So that's a little too on the nose right there, right? The other flaw in this film is that with 25 characters, at some point, you just can't pay them off like the way you could. And so Tarzan Davis, Shea Wiggum, Henry Czerny, Angela Bassett, Holt McCallany, great fucking actors who get marginalized and become plot points, basically. They have nothing to do. I would argue Haley Atwell also has almost nothing to do.
Did you? I mean, we'll get into in spoilers. But did you follow? Did you see that big twist they threw us about Shea Wiggum's character at the end? I was like, what?
So
why are we feel like we're doing that?
And so that is the other flaw in this film. Is you are correct. I think they tried way too hard to connect stuff that they didn't need to. Did we?
Nostalgia.
We'll get that. We'll get that into the. So you dinged it because of nostalgia bait. I think it's definitely flawed, and some sequences go way too long. Like the submarine thing, it's a given he's getting out. It's just how he's getting out. But you are correct. The way that he gets out of it, I was like, nope, you're dead. We're all dead. The entity wins. I'm sorry. Wait,
you're so dead.
No way. No fucking way. Okay. But I will say this, folks. If you have ever been curious to watch Tom Cruise fight in nothing but his underwear, this is your fucking movie. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna watch this again just for that.
But if you want to see a 62-year-old Tom Cruise naked fight, there you go.
Ooh, girl, it's good. So, but as flawed as this is, I have to tell you, Elle Cruz delivers, man. This just was, you know, even though it was super long, even though I was like, I want to see more from this character, even though I was like, stop retconning, stop connecting, we don't need it. I just had a blast with this. And I'm sorry, as much as I want to be like a non-cheerleader for Tom Cruise, he just brings it. I'm sorry. He is a cinematic treasure. And as much as I didn't like the submarine sequence, there were times watching the old school, like, what do they call those? Are they called bi-wing planes or
the old fighters,
Wright brother planes? Whatever they are. What I loved was it goes from high tech and an AI intelligence thing to this very simple Wright brothers chase through the sky, and it is so entertaining and so wonderful. Like they stripped it down, right? No technology. And it's just this fight that I was in awe. I'm like, is he really doing that? Oh my God. And just the gymnastics around all of that. And again, here we go. Referencing Mission Impossible 1, Esai Morales' character gets a Estevez-like comeuppance, right? And I don't know, that whole airplane sequence, like, just wowed the fuck out of me that I overlooked the flaws. I really did. And this is great. I loved it. I loved it so much, even though it was super flawed. And I don't know, I might actually see it again. So it's a huge watch for me. It's a huge watch for me. But here's the thing. I want another Mission Impossible, but I don't want Tom Cruise involved. I think it's time to move on. If you give us this, like John Wick 4, and then you tell us there's going to be another John Wick, I don't know. I may be done with Elle Cruz, because you can't end it like this and then bring him back. You can't. You just can't.
Well, he has so much love for this character in these movies and the espionage and the big set pieces. You know, he loves it. He loves pushing himself. So I doubt he's going to want to retire unless they force him to. So I could see him wanting to do another, maybe kind of take a step back where he's not as, you know, like he tried to in Top Gun Maverick, but again, he still was the lead in that too.
Yeah, of course. And I will say one thing about these last two films. It's a choice to make the enemy AI, right? It's a choice to make the human enemies, quote unquote, avatars of the AI, but it boosted what was a great espionage serialized thriller about geopolitics and agents that we follow on different sides. it boosted it into a weird techno future, almost supernatural kind of thing. And that, to me, that was kind of a big flaw. Like, you can't go anywhere else after this story. That's why we need a new team. And by the way, another flaw in this film that I'm going to say, and then we'll move on to spoilers. I don't know that we're going to have much beyond the spoilers, honestly, from what we've said. But in this film, there are too many moments where people are like, we have to go and get this, but that's what the AI wants. Maybe we need to do something different. Bon Dieu, mon Dieu, let's do it. We have to. We're going to try something. We'll figure it out. Like, there's just two. There was like
I love your one-man show, by the way.
There were like 3 or 4 scenes like that, and I was just like, what the fuck are we doing? Why? So yeah, some of it gets tiresome, but it's like, come on, chop the air like Tom Cruise. We don't need it to be this long. Just get going. We're here for the action. So it's a watch for me. Is still a skip for you?
At the moment, I still think it's a skip. I don't think that there's enough here to make you want to go to the theater to see this for 3 hours. I just wish there was, because every set piece in this I felt like was derivative of a better set piece in a previous film. So it's like, they take so much of the past, but like, again, I thought they did it worse. And man, the ham-fisting of every piece of dialogue, like your little, I can't wait till you get to see yourself doing your little one-man show you just did. It was amazing. Everyone watching YouTube just got your best one-man show from Jose playing all. And I loved your little French, whatever you were doing there. That was epic.
Lord. Okay.
But,
all right. So
yeah, let's go and spoil the crap out of this thing.
Yes,
you love
here we
it.
go.
I don't love it as much. Let's go.
All right. So here we go. If you've not seen Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, we're going to spoil it faster than you can say anti-God versus the entity, whatever the shit that was. In 3, 2, 1. Okay. Shea Wiggum's character is introduced in part 1 as Agent Briggs. He has a hard-on for Ethan Hunt, wants to capture him, wants to be the guy that captures him. In the film, they're like, oh, your name isn't actually Briggs. You are Jim Phelps, John Phelps's son. And it's like, wah, wah. Why? What was there other than the two of them shaking hands? They should have kissed, actually. But them shaking hands at the end and maybe teeing it up that, Phelps joins the IMF. Why did we have that? There was no reason to retcon that. None.
No, there was no reason. That's the problem, is there's almost not a reason for this movie to exist except the last one forced its hand. They could have really ended everything in the last film, not in about the same length that this is, honestly. That's why I felt like this is a much ado about nothing. Yes, we kill off a character, but why didn't we kill off more? Why do we have to make Simon Pegg was pretty much dead, barely alive, he basically gets stabbed and he barely gets, kept alive because his lung is collapsing and they do a tracheotomy on him right there, which was cool. But then he still somehow, makes it to the end. If you're going to kill off Ving Rhames, kill off Simon Pegg, kill off all the OGs, just leave the newbies, and then we can have a future. But again, they wanted this to be too soft. I wanted it to be harder. I wanted it to be the final.
Honestly, I think they should have killed Tom. And it should have been
why not?
It should have been some weirdo, minuscule thing, like he trips and a nail falls into his head or something. You know what I mean? Like Final Destination. But I think
kill him off when he should have died, when he was coming up bare naked in below freezing temperatures. Somehow he goes from 500 feet. He strips his clothes off to escape through a freaking torpedo shaft, and then goes all the way up through freezing cold water naked with nothing but holding this little oxygen tank.
You know what? I got to tell you, I think that they could have gone Friedkin to Live and Die in L.A. That sequence, he could have died in that sequence, and then his hand could have come up through the ice with the drive, and then she would have picked it up, and then like, Ethan, I love you, and then like ran off to the rest of it. I mean, why not?
If it's the final, why not just give us a punch? Because this felt like so much lame. I walked out the same way as I felt watching that last Star Wars movie, which the whole time I just was thinking, this is like that Star Wars movie again. They're trying to make all the old stupid neckbeards who bitch and complain about things happy. We're bringing back 3. We're bringing back 4. Okay, we're retconning all this stuff. We're talking about your wife again. We're doing all the things. We're trying to make people understand that we love this series. Great, we all do. We grew up with it. It's 30 years. But bring us what was so awesome about 5, 6, and 7. New, exciting, almost like documentary style looking realistic like set pieces. That's what we want. I don't need like an hour of dialogue and this quick editing trying to retcon what happened in 2012 with a sinking ship.
Actually,
stuff. Just
speaking of retconning, I will say this.
Yes, go ahead.
I enjoyed the fact that in Mission Impossible 1, William Dunlow, after that great sequence where they go into the vault in Langley, right? I appreciate the fact that there is a scene where Henry Czerny says, I want Dunlow manning a sonar station in Alaska. And they brought him back to man a sonar station in fucking Alaska. I loved that. Now, anybody who hasn't seen the Mission other movies, I mean, they clearly tell you who the fuck this guy is, but I love that they brought back that original character. So some of the retconning I thought was okay. All right.
Yeah. I did like that actually. And I liked his character. And he's like, because a lot of this was, oh my gosh, in the end, Tom, you fucked everything up. You're the reason why all this awful stuff has happened. You thinking you're doing good stuff and saving your little people and your team has affected the world in such a negative way. So it was nice to have him be like, basically say, no, me getting sent to this, retreat basically to meet my wife and be out here has been the best thing in my life. I couldn't imagine not being here. So thank you for doing this. And then it turned into, no, you haven't ruined the world. You actually made it better. We just have to deal with change. And sometimes people don't like to deal with change. And Tom Cruise, you bring change. So,
so this is where I had to roll my eyes a little, as if the cinematography, the shadowy cinematography wasn't enough on the nose. It's this parallel storytelling, right? The entity knows everything and wants to, destroy whatever. So it has, out of all of its billion probabilities, it knows where things will particularly go. It has its own fate, right? Ethan's character has his own fate as well. And so, like you said, it's like the butterfly effect. It's affected all of these people.
Yeah.
Do I think they copped out by having Phelps be like, oh, you're a good man for saving the world, I forgive you? And then did they cop out that like the guy was like, well, I got sent here, but I never would have found my wife and I never would have led a lonely fucking existence in the snow for 30 fucking years. And suddenly he's just like, yeah, let me suck your dick, I'm okay. Right? Like, I think that was a little bit, but again, there's that parallel storytelling, right? The entity changes and manipulates destiny for its own bad means, and then Tom Cruise's character manipulates destiny and things may go wrong, but ultimately they end up good. And so if I have my biggest thing about this screenplay, the biggest ding is they tried to make Ethan Hunt into some kind of god.
Yeah, he's the god. He is.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he can't be killed. He's basically like a human avatar to shepherd the entity because they give him the entity at the end. And they're all just like magically like, you're the only one who can what if he has a bad day and decides like, I don't like everybody, I'll just kill everybody? Like, when did we decide out of all of these films that Ethan Hunt was the ideal human being to now house the entity? Like, I was like, whatever.
That's the kicker about the whole show is every member of the team is that 1 in a millionth person that needs to be exactly where they are doing what they're doing, like down to Haley Atwell's the ability to still and that 1/100th of a second, that million,
the blink of an eye thing. So you know what?
Blink of an eye thing, and every one of them have that ability to do something that nobody else can do, and that's kind of the
Well, I mean, listen, so I think through the thread of the entire films, there is the impossible task that they do, which takes that kind of timing, right? But if you're going to beat an AI or a computer that has probabilities, they didn't really say this, but the only way to do that is to be precise at those moments. Because if you are precise at those moments, the AI can't catch you. But you are right. Like it makes the audience have to hinge on what might feel like coincidence or might feel like timing, but it's backed in the story as a logical play. It's the only way to beat the entity, because you have to be unpredictable and you have to be precise. And to be precise is to be unpredictable. So there's stuff that's in the screenplay that like doesn't really work maybe, but for this level of kind of entertainment, I think it does work, and I kind of liked it. I do see it as a flaw, but it works in the overall context of this. But so one of the fun things in 5, 6, and the first one is McQuarrie was quick to make humorous situations out of the fact that Ethan is indestructible, right? Yeah. That like whatever he does, he doesn't die. And so in one film, he goes to jump over a car and he misses and like falls down. There's that kind of humor that's threaded throughout the films. I just didn't like that suddenly they went from joking about his indestructibility to then basically saying he's a human god.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's a human god. He puts together his group of disciples. He puts his 12 together, whatever. And they're all holy and they all know how to save the world. They are the Mission Impossible. But again, they drop a lot of things like, are they actually getting paid for this? Because at one point wasn't 5 and 6 about their whole like the MI thing falling apart. And so they were now, rogues. They didn't have a home. They didn't make money. So how are they making money? How are they getting all these? And I missed like some tropes, like the making of the masks. I missed some of that. They always make a mask and they didn't make a mask. So that kind of
well, they did in the beginning.
They pulled one.
Yeah.
It was fun.
But you know what? How were they not killed in that first scene? Like they should have been shot and killed in that. Like it's done. It's all done. Everybody's dead. But the other thing is there's so many fucking characters in this that you just like Greg Tarzan Davis and the Briggs Phelps character, nothing to do but just ease the plot along. Tierney, not much to do. Those great actors in that war room, even great character actors, like they have nothing to do.
And that was some of the best media stuff. Like all of those things going on. Angela Bassett, God, she was great in that. I thought as the president, she was amazing. Offerman was great in his decision, to sacrifice himself for her. That was a cool moment. That to me was some of the best scenes in the movie. I love that war room stuff because it seemed to really ground it to see what was going on. And it brings us back to what the Mission Impossible series are about. Like what's going on in the real life versus what the superhumans from MI are doing. So,
and for the record, I also think that Haley Atwell's character was not given much to do either. Now, some would argue she's the love interest, this and that, but are they really gonna? I don't know. I don't.
Her whole purpose
like how
was to be able to steal and to do that one thing. That was her whole purpose. Again, it almost like everyone's one whole purpose
and get naked with him in the decompression thing so she can warm him up and then bring him back to life or whatever. But that's just a plot point. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they introduced such a great character in that first one, and then suddenly there's no tension there because she's just like, I'm not going to do what Henry Czerny tells me to do in the beginning. She's like, what's the play? And it's like, oh, just like that, they resolved that.
Yeah.
You know? But also over the course of these films, him falling in love with not only Michelle Monaghan, but then also Rebecca Ferguson, and then she dies. Like
I miss her.
this character would not fall in love with another woman. I just don't know that that would happen.
I don't think so either. No, I do miss Rebecca Ferguson. I think maybe is another thing I missed in this.
I just say I will say this again and again and again. After you watch Rogue Nation, there was no reason why Rebecca Ferguson should not have been cast as Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Absolutely,
she's so good.
No reason. She was fantastic. Anything else? Oh, yeah. Him doing his own stunt work with the planes. I don't know how they did it, but just amazing. Like just letting himself go and then like rebounding back into the plane.
Spinning around.
Oh my God. It was incredible.
Wow, cool.
Which, by the way, visually they set up in the submarine sequence. They visually set it up for you to have this mechanics of him being able to think in 3 dimensions as the submarine is moving. And so they set it up for the plane thing at the end. So even though you and I didn't quite think the submarine thing worked in terms of a thrill sequence, it is a setup for that final sequence when, you know, gravity is against them essentially when they're playing. Yeah. But I loved how the guy was like, haha, I'm gonna win, and then he like his crotch gets like stuck on the plane, and then his head flips up and his head gets like yeah, exactly. Just like Emilio Estevez in Mission Impossible 1 when he gets like the knife, which they show us. Yeah, exactly.
Over and over. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. And this again, just I would like to pitch the series Person of Interest. If you enjoy the fact that like there's this big AI and there are human avatars that follow them and follow the AI, that was Person of Interest to a T in the last three or four seasons. So I will pitch that series again because it starts as one thing but becomes something amazing, almost like this entity and stuff like that. So if you like that, check out Person of Interest. But I don't know. This is super awesome entertainment for me, and I dug it. I really did. I want to see it again, even with all of its flaws.
I don't know if I want to see it again. I'm the opposite of you, though. I love 1 through 4. I don't go back to 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, I love 5, 6, 7. Oh, I love that.
I watched them again, and I still prefer the director showcase of the first 4. But there's things I do love in 5, 6, and 7. And there's not much I love in 8, unfortunately. I think it's probably up there with 2. And I like 2's grown on me a ton. And I know people like to shit on both 2 and 3, but I think they're better than this, honestly. Now that I think about it, I think it's at the bottom. Unfortunately. Maybe
so
right next to
unpopular opinion, out of now seeing all of these films, I'm going to tell my opinion is that 2 and 4 are outliers. The real meat of the series is 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Interesting.
You could excise 2 and 4 and you'd still have a great movie series.
But I love 4. I think 4 probably my favorite. Because I love the feeling of Michelle Monaghan's character. I loved everything about what happened after 3 and then 4. I loved what they did in 3 and 4, honestly. To me, those were when I got back into the series. 5 was like, okay, we're going for an ultra realistic, like kind of documentarian look at, cool stunts, which I liked too. They looked more real. And that's what you get. You get the 2 or 3 big stunts.
Oh my God! Cool. 5, the motorcycle hang-on sequence where they're like dipping, like, oh my God, so good. Like I said, I prefer this serialized, almost Star Wars-esque, like 5 events into 6 events into 7. I like that better. But, all right, folks. That's that.
So final, you're to watch
I'm a super 150% wildly entertained watch, even with its
You're a
flaws.
hard watch.
Yeah.
I'm a soft skip, just barely skip, because I just felt like unless you want, if you love the series, you're going to go see it in theaters, and if you like to see Tom Cruise hanging off of a plane, that's the real reason to see it. But I feel like all the others have so many better sequences. But I have Paramount as well, so I can see that, and it's going to be there in 2 months. So if you don't want to go to the theater for 3 hours, I say wait.
Yes, yes. Um, Also, kudos to Tom Cruise for looking his age on screen. Um, I was
They
actually
have to make his
shocked.
face the poster
Well,
because they wanted us to see how beat up he got.
I mean, I was actually shocked that you can see visible wrinkles all over his face. I would have thought he would have gotten injected at least and had some Restylane to tighten up the jaw. But kudos to him for showing his age, and I think it's
Yeah, he looks
appropriate for the
good.
character too.
Yeah.
He's been on the run for 2 months. He looks disheveled. He's got that disgusting long hair from part two. So anyway. All right, we got some pluses. I'll start with you. What do you got plus wise?
Okay, so for my plus, I didn't. I've been really busy with this weekend. I did like 3 days worth of work on my yard. I did some landscaping, prepared for this weekend. We had a celebration for my son's graduation, so I didn't get much in, but I did catch one other film, and I'm going to talk about it. And that is from Sundance, The Ugly Stepsister. So if you go back to our Sundance review, my buddy Pat, actually, this was his favorite film from the festival. And my gosh, if I would have saw it during the festival, it would have been top 5, if not higher. It is so amazing. So if you know the Cinderella story, basically we get the version of what's going through the ugly stepsister as we see what's going on with Cinderella. But yeah, we get full hard-on penises, we get penetration, we get gore through the wazoo. This is a movie calling your name. You
Oh,
need to see this thing.
okay.
It is.
Just
Go
to
ahead.
interrupt really quickly. Last night we opted to watch Locked with Bill Skarsgård and then Borderline. But the other runner-up choice was The Ugly Stepsister or whatever. So we
You
almost
need to
watched
see
it.
this.
Okay.
Yes. It kind of looks like and feels like A Room with a View. What are those old films called from
Merchant Ivory.
Merchant Ivory? So it feels like a Merchant Ivory film at first, except very dated, like 1800s. Has this airy feeling to it, and it builds itself as such, but you just keep getting the little nasty bits until, well, what do you do when you try to go from the ugly stepsister to win the man of your life, but go through archaic ways of surgery? So a lot of this is archaic, like surgery that people are going through, kind of showing like how plastic surgery, even today, shouldn't be done. Like, what is the purpose of plastic surgery? Why are we trying so hard to make ourselves look better, feel better, see, but whatever? Just be who you are. And that really is the messaging, because we see these archaic versions of these surgeries going on. And her foot's too big, so how do you go about getting your foot into a shoe? Just chop the fucking toes off.
Oh my God. Wow.
So there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, the poster kind of spoils the toe cutting, so there's no spoiler really there. But there's a lot of gory stuff. It really works as a double feature with something like The Substance, as a feminist forward body horror. Very much think like you're watching a Merchant Ivory film about what women had to go through for social standards, while we see that the Prince Charming, is actually kind of a fucking dick. He's a douchebag. He's a pervert.
Wow.
He's kind of an asshole the whole time. Overall, I had so much fun with this. If you're a feminist, you're gonna eat this stuff up. If you love The Substance, you're gonna love Ugly Stepsister. First film by Emily Blichfeld, I believe, is the director. I can't remember if it was from Poland. I think it was Poland or Denmark.
Norway.
Norway. Okay.
Norwegian.
So Norwegian, see this right now. It's on Shudder. It was purchased by IFC during the festival. Definite a must watch. Shudder usually drops one good movie a month, and this was the good one from
Nice.
So get out there and watch it.
Yeah, I think I saw it on AMC Plus, but you're right. I think Shudder, definitely. Definitely Shudder. Great. So for my plus, just really quickly, as many people know, I have this thing about not putting objects or earbuds inside my ear holes. And so I have been collecting these ridiculous open earbud stuff. So like, you know, this is the nothing ear, which sort of like hooks on there. I've got the Sound Core. I think these are called the open, the Sound Core 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
The Open Pro 2. And then the Bose, the open ear ones, which are sort of like this sort of whatever. And then one last one, Shox actually makes one too. That's their Open Fit 2 Pro, which is, again, it like hooks on the ear, but it's not inside the ear hole as well. These, by the way, are on sale for 20% off. So I have bought another one and I'm actually modeling them. So just like the Bose, which this is what sits in your ear and then it sort of wraps around like an earring. Shox has now made what they call their open dots. And so same thing. It just is kind of like this. This is called the joint arc. And you can actually touch that to make things, you know, skip forward, that kind of thing.
Oh.
And again, it's just really easy. You hold it like this, wrap it in there, and then just let go. Yeah.
There you go. Cool.
But what's awesome is that stacked up next to the Bose, you can see it's going to be a better fit for different ears. I love the Bose ones, but this, I mean, these are just, you can wear them all day. They are super comfortable. They're wonderful. I haven't tested the telephone quality, but I imagine it's going to be great. And it is slightly cheaper than the Bose open ears. But it's still kind of pricey. But again, I absolutely love these, and they don't interfere with your glasses. That's the problem with the hook-on ones, is when you put your glasses on, sometimes they rejigger it in some ways. So Shox open dots, absolutely awesome. They are going to set you back about $199, and they only come in gray and black, but fantastic. If they go on sale soon, folks, grab them. They are, I probably will only wear these now, quite honestly. I may have something as a backup pair, but yeah, love these. All right.
How long do they last when you charge them? Do you know?
I mean, I think they said you could get like at least 8 hours out of them,
Okay.
you know, and then charge them. And then this little charger is actually a charging pack itself. And this supports wireless. So you can put it on like a QI pad and it'll charge. So if you have that kind of like charging system, it'll do it. Otherwise, it's got the standard USB-C on there or whatever. But yeah, I love it. So good. So good. What are we doing next week? Let's see.
Yeah.
Ghost Trail. Oh, Bring Her Back. Oh, and then Karate Kid Legends. All right, so next week we have either the horror of Bring Her Back. That's by the Philippou brothers, who, by the way, they were attached to Street Fighter, and I think they departed the project and ended up doing this. And then Karate Kid Legends with Jackie Chan, Ralph Macchio. Strangely, they're both the same runtime, 1 hour and 35 minutes, which is curious. I would have thought Karate Kid would have been 2 hours and 40, just like a Mission Impossible.
So Bring Her Back or Karate Kids? I vote Bring Her Back.
I vote Bring Her Back too, guys. If you have a choice, if you want us to do Karate Kid or if you want us to do Bring Her Back horror, choose Bring Her Back. Let us know in the comment section. Obviously, if you love us, you'll certainly love our Podfathers, The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema, as well as Not a Bomb. You will also love Night of the Living podcast, Wild Dream podcast, Death by DVD, Raiders of the podcast, Backlook Cinema podcast with Zoe, our YouTube brother John Horgan, and now for something a little bit different, I will be jumping on there to talk about Jeff Bridges' Fearless. It will come soon, folks, I promise. Caliber 9 from Outer Space, Feminine Critique, and Talk Without Rhythm with Goro. Mike, short parting thoughts.
Enjoy yourself. Get out there, see live music, see films with your family. Enjoy the summer.
Yeah. Enjoy it unless you're Ethan Hunt, because then you're just, you're a human god and you have to rule the world for good morality. I don't know. But at any rate, everyone, be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.